And our next guest this morning is Mr. Bartosz Rydliński from the Daszyński Centre. Sir, pleasure to see you. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning. The pleasure is mine.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Sikorski, taking a very hands-on approach to relations with the U.S. I believe this is already his second visit in recent weeks. Now, I wonder, what do you think his main goals were during this visit?
I think his main goals was to emphasize that Russia is still a great danger, not to Ukraine, but also to the NATO member states, because Radosław Sikorski, Minister Sikorski, recently met not only with the Democrats, but also with the Republicans. So I think that Radosław Sikorski and the Donald Tusk government is, in a way, playing different instruments to bring the awareness to possible winning side in the presidential elections in November this year, that Russia is a threat and that NATO needs United States and the United States needs NATO. Because Radosław Sikorski rightly mentioned that Article 5 of the Washington Treaty was used once after 9/11, when the United States asked for European allies' support, and Poland and other countries from European component of NATO deliver this support, going with Americans to Afghanistan and before that to Iraq.
Right, and also we have heard recently Radosław Sikorski saying that, and if I may quote him here, the costs Russia bears so far have not been high enough, and I have said it shouldn't be limited to Ukraine. We should create an uncertainty for them about what we will do everywhere, not just in Ukraine, which I believe we can say that clearly shows that Poland's increasing its importance. But I really want to hear what is your take on this? What role do you think does Poland play in strengthening NATO's eastern flank, especially in the light of Russia's actions?
We're the key player in the region because we are spending more than 4% of our GDP for defense and security. So we are, like, in a way, a leader in the school. So in percentage, we spend more than United States and Great Britain. Of course, in terms of numbers, nobody can compete with Americans. But I think that before upcoming NATO summit in Washington, we should underline that there is no free lunch anymore. And I think that also our Western colleagues and allies, Germany, Spain, Italy, that also they should spend more on the military and security, because Eastern flank costs, security costs. And I think that Sikorski rightly underlined during various meetings in Washington, because he was in a way communicating not only with American public or American elites. I think that Radosław Sikorski was communicating his ideas, his message through Washington to Berlin, to Paris, to Madrid, and to Rome.
All right. A next question here. I wonder, now, Mr. Duda, Poland's president, Andrzej Duda, had been in the United States just a few weeks ago. He was visiting with the Trump camp. And now we see Mr. Sikorski doing the same. Now, is this because both the president and the new government are aligned, or is there some kind of competition here as well, do you think?
I think President Duda is ideologically close to Donald Trump camp. Radosław Sikorski representing center-right government, so he is quite far away from internal, let's say, politics from the democratic perspective. He's married to the Democrat, but Radosław Sikorski is not leftist at all. So I think that he was playing a smart game, that doesn't matter who is going to win the general elections in the United States, Poland must cooperate with future inhabitant of the White House. So in a way, it was a smart move, especially that Radosław Sikorski met with General Kellogg, a close advisor to Donald Trump, because Donald Trump listens close advisors. Donald Trump is not very focused on Europe, but we need to have people who's going to whisper to Donald Trump's ears that Central Europe matters, that Poland matters, and Eastern flanks should be secure. And I think it was a smart decision of Radosław Sikorski, and before him of Andrzej Duda, of meeting with Republicans, and with Duda meeting Trump himself.
And also, like you mentioned, now Radosław Sikorski was reiterating that, in contrast perhaps to what happened in the past in Polish politics, now Poland wants to focus on multiple scenarios, and depending on who might win in next presidential elections, Poland still wants to maintain good relationship with the next candidate, with who might win now in November this year. Now, perhaps switching gears ever so slightly, but we already foreshadowed it, NATO and the defense spending, 3% of GDP, and now both President Andrzej Duda, whom we mentioned, and now Radosław Sikorski have been vocal about now increasing the defense spending to 3% of GDP. But is Poland's call to increase the defense spending itself, is it realistic? What challenges do you think might arise?
It is enormously realistic for us, for countries in the region. It is probably non-realistic for the countries far away from Ukraine and from Russian borders. So I think this is a strategy of bringing countries from the West to upgrade the spendings to 2% or 2.5% by saying that we would like to put the 3% obligation to spending for security and military and equipment. But I think we are, from the political perspective, this is the message of being being ready for a potential conflict with Russia. We know that right now the same discussions are taking place in Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. We should also encourage our new NATO allies, Sweden and Finland, to be on side with us. So we should have strong Eastern flank NATO voice, which could be heard wisely both in the United States and in Western Europe.
That's right, and I assume a part of the job of Mr. Sikorski in the U.S., because he has a connection with the U.S. as well. He's also, I believe, his son is an American citizen. His wife is an American citizen. So, I mean, he's in a good position to to pass on the news from here. And the reality of what's happening. And apparently, in his meeting with General Keith Kellogg, he did find an understanding there. He says that in General Kellogg, Poland has found a friend, and that he understands the situation and Poland's role very well.
Exactly. We also would like to I would like to also mention that Radosław Sikorski said at the Atlantic Council, American Washington-based think tank, a few weeks ago that his son is serving American army. So this is also important private attempt from Radosław Sikorski to convince American public and elites that this Polish-American relationship should be strengthened, should be kept in the very good reality right now. And I assume that before the election, before the general election, there will be less and less understanding for more spending for security abroad for Americans. Though, after the elections, it's crucial to have a good relations with the close advisors, potential ministers, Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense from both administrations, and try to lobby the Polish security issues.
Exactly. And Mr. Sikorski, he said at the FT Weekend Festival Conference, he said that we don't want to put all our chips on one color. And that makes perfect sense. Well, sir, thanks very much for joining us. Pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you.